She was rejected the moment she walked in. Not because she was late, not because she was unprepared, but because she brought her 5-year-old daughter to a final interview. Amelia Grant didn't miss the way the woman at the front desk froze when she saw the small child holding her hand. She didn't miss the quick look of judgment, the tightening mouth, the flash of something cold behind the receptionist's perfect smile. But this moment, the shock, the whispers, the disapproving stares, was only the surface of a day that had already tried to destroy her. Hours earlier, everything had been different. The motel bathroom was small enough that steam from the shower clung to the mirror long after she'd wiped it. Amelia leaned close to her reflection, trying to still her shaking hands enough to apply mascara evenly. Today wasn't just another interview. Today was survival. Cole and Wynn Technologies wasn't just a prestigious tech company. It was stable, respected, and paid enough to pull her and her daughter out of the hole they'd been surviving in for months. She'd made it through the phone screening, then the skills test, then the second-round virtual interview. Today was the final panel, the finish line. She whispered to herself, "Just let one thing go right today." Behind her, through the cracked bathroom door, she could see her daughter sleeping on the motel bed. Tiny, warm, curled around a stuffed bunny with a missing eye. Bun Bun had survived everything. Eviction, tears. Nights Amelia silently sobbed after Lila was asleep. Amelia forced a smile. "Today is our chance, baby," she murmured to the sleeping child. But life, as it too often did, had other plans. Her phone buzzed. One glance at the caller ID made her stomach twist. "Ruth?" she answered quickly. "Everything okay?" Ruth's voice was thick and hoarse. "Amelia, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm really sick. Fever. I can barely stand." Amelia's pulse stuttered. "No, no. Ruth, I have my interview this morning, the final one. I can't miss this." "I know, sweetheart. I really do. But I can't move. I'm so sorry." A cough rattled through the phone. Then silence. Then the soft click of the call ending. Amelia stood frozen, gripping the cheap motel nightstand to steady herself. Her babysitter, her only babysitter, was down. No family, no emergency childcare available, not one available neighbor. And it was nearly 7. 2 hours until the interview. 0 options. Her throat tightened. Her breathing quickened. She tried everyone in her contacts list. No answer. Working. Too far. Unavailable. Try another time. Every failed call was a punch to the ribs. She closed her eyes and whispered a sentence that tasted like fear and determination mixed. "She's coming with me." By 7:20, she woke her daughter with a soft brush of fingers against her cheek. "Lila, honey, wake up. Mama needs you." Lila stretched, rubbing her eyes. "What's wrong, Mama?" "Nothing is wrong," Amelia lied gently. "We're going somewhere important today, okay? A very fancy building, but you have to be extra quiet and extra good." Lila nodded with a seriousness no 5-year-old should carry. Amelia dressed her in the only nice outfit she had for her. A yellow dress that was almost too small and a white cardigan with a missing button. She brushed her daughter's curls and tried not to cry. She packed a small bag, crayons, a coloring book, Bun Bun, a granola bar, a juice box, the essentials for survival. By 7:50, they were on the first bus, then the second. By 8:45, they were standing in front of a massive glass building, rising like a monument to success. Cole and Wynn Technologies, a place Amelia had only ever dreamed she belonged in. She squeezed her daughter's hand. "Ready?" Lila nodded. They stepped through the revolving doors. Inside, everything shined. Marble floors, glass walls, metallic accents, sharp heels clicking. Suits more expensive than Amelia's monthly rent used to be. The receptionist, blonde, immaculate, expression stiff, raised an eyebrow. "May I help you?" "Amelia Grant," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I have a 9 a.m. interview with the executive team." The receptionist looked at Lila, at the bunny in her hands, at the coloring book. Her mouth tightened. "One moment." She tapped a message into her computer. Then, "You can wait over there." The tone wasn't rude, but it wasn't warm either. Amelia led Lila to a chair farthest from the other waiting professionals. Those professionals gave her looks. Confusion, judgment, pity. Pity hurt the worst. She leaned down to her daughter. "You remember what Mama said?" "Extra quiet," Lila whispered. "Good girl." At 9:04, she saw her, the woman whose stare could cut glass. Marissa Doyle, VP of Human Resources. Tall, sharp, precise, immaculate. She approached with a folder in hand and disapproval already forming. "Ms. Grant," she said curtly, "we're ready for you." Her eyes drifted to Lila. Then her brows lifted. "And your child?" Deep breath. "My childcare fell through this morning," Amelia explained. "I didn't want to miss the interview. She'll be silent, I promise." Marissa didn't blink. "This is a professional interview, Ms. Grant, not a daycare." Shame burned behind Amelia's ribs. "I understand, but I'm asking for a chance." Marissa considered her, coldly. Then, maybe out of obligation, she stepped aside. "Very well, but if she disrupts the interview, it will end immediately. Is that understood?" "Yes, thank you." They followed her toward an elevator and into the lion's den. The conference room was too bright, too cold, too silent. 6 executives sat at a polished table. Each turned to stare when the door opened. Amelia felt her stomach drop. She guided Lila to a small chair in the corner. "Stay here, baby. Color quietly." Then she took her place at the table. But she could already feel it. They had judged her before she even sat down. And then Evelyn Hart, Director of Operations, leaned forward. "Before we begin," she said, "we need to address what's obvious." Her gaze flicked to the child in the corner. "You brought your daughter to a final interview, Ms. Grant." Her tone made the sentence sound like, "You brought a ticking bomb." "My childcare fell through this morning," Amelia said, steady but embarrassed. "I didn't want to miss this opportunity." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "This shows a lack of professionalism, a lack of judgment." Another man, older, frowned. "What happens when your daughter gets sick? Will you bring her to work then?" Marissa spoke next. "At Cole & Wynn, we expect employees to prioritize business needs." It wasn't a conversation. It was an attack. Amelia tried. She fought back with grace. "I understand your concerns, but I am qualified. I have years of experience, a strong work ethic, and I can promise my personal life will not interfere with my job." Evelyn didn't soften. "We can't take that risk." And something inside Amelia broke. Not loudly, not visibly, but quietly. The kind of break that comes after months of trying to stay strong. "I see," she whispered. She stood, gathered her bag, her dignity, her daughter's hand. "I'm sorry for wasting your time." She turned to leave, and the door opened. He stepped inside like a shift in the weather. Tall, confident, dark hair brushed with silver, a tailored suit that said everything without needing to brag. Damian Cole, CEO, co-founder, the man whose name was engraved on the building itself. Every executive instantly stood. "Mr. Cole," Marissa stammered. We didn't expect—" "My flight was canceled," he said calmly. "Thought I'd come in." His gaze swept the room, then landed on Amelia, her daughter, the coloring book, the stuffed bunny, then the executives. "What's happening here?" he asked. Marissa spoke first. "We were concluding an interview. Ms. Grant brought her child." Damian looked at Lila again. Small, quiet, perfectly behaved. Then he looked at Amelia, her trembling hands, her tired eyes, her pride trying desperately not to crack. Then he said, "She didn't bring a problem." Silence. "She brought her reason to succeed." The room froze. Evelyn blinked. Marissa stiffened. Everyone else stared. Damian turned to Amelia. "Ms. Grant, would you step into my office? I'd like to speak with you personally." And with that, everything changed. For a moment, Amelia couldn't move. She wasn't sure anyone else in the room could either. Damian Cole, a man whose name carried power, wealth, and legend, had spoken to her gently, directly, and with something she hadn't felt in months: respect. "Ms. Grant?" he repeated softly. She blinked. Yes, yes, of course. She gathered her bag and turned to Lila. Come on, sweetheart. Lila hopped off the chair, clutching Bun Bun under one arm and Amelia's hand with the other. Damian pressed the elevator button. Executives parted like the sea for him. No one dared speak. No one dared breathe. As the doors closed behind them, Amelia felt her lungs finally expand. The elevator hummed softly, smooth and silent as it carried them upward. Damian glanced down at Lila, who was staring up at him with wide curiosity. "And who's this young lady?" he asked warmly. "I'm Lila," she whispered. Damian knelt slightly, making himself level with her. "That's a beautiful name," he said. Lila looked at Bun Bun. "He likes your office," she whispered shyly. Damian smiled, a genuine smile that softened the edges of his face. "Well, Bun Bun is welcome any time." The elevator dinged on the 25th floor, a private level, another world compared to the cold panel room below. Damian's office was nothing like the sterile boardroom. It was warm, lived in, bookshelves, plants, soft lighting, city views, a long couch, a small play corner, toys neatly stacked. He noticed her look. "My niece visits sometimes," he explained, motioning toward the play area. "So this is kid approved." Lila's eyes lit up. Her tiny feet carried her toward the soft rug and wooden blocks. "Go ahead, baby," Amelia whispered. Lila settled instantly, arranging blocks into a wobbly tower. Damian gestured to a chair opposite his desk. "Sit, Miss Grant." She sat. Her hands were trembling. Her heart was racing. She didn't know what was happening. Damian folded his hands. "All right," he said quietly. "Tell me the truth, not the professional version, the real version. Why did you have to bring your daughter today?" Her throat tightened, and for the first time in months, maybe years, someone wasn't judging her. Someone was simply asking. She inhaled shakily. "My babysitter called out sick this morning," she said. "My childcare options are limited. I've been looking for work for months. We were evicted 2 months ago, and we're staying at the Sunrise Motel." He listened, really listened. She continued. "I've applied for over 100 jobs. I've gotten dozens of rejections. Some never responded at all. This interview was the closest we've come to a stable life again." Her voice cracked. "I couldn't miss it." Silence, except for Lila quietly humming as she built her block tower. Damian leaned back, studying her. Not harshly, not critically, but with the expression of a man assessing truth. "And what's your daughter's father's involvement?" he asked gently. "None," Amelia replied. "He left when she was 3. No support, no presence, nothing." Her eyes burned. "I've been doing this alone." He nodded slowly. Then, "What makes you believe you'd be good at this role?" Her breath caught. I have the qualifications." "No," he interrupted softly. "Not the resume answer. You. Why do you believe you'd excel?" Amelia looked down at her hands, then at her daughter, then at the life she wanted, needed to build. And she answered honestly, "Because I don't have a choice." Damian raised an eyebrow. "Explain." She swallowed. "Because I've survived worse than this job could ever demand. Because I've balanced bills late at night and deadlines early in the morning. Because I've learned to anticipate problems before they appear. Because when life collapses, I don't." Her voice steadied. "I find solutions. I fight. I push. I don't break." Damian's eyes softened. "That," he murmured, "is exactly why I wanted to talk to you." He stood, walked to the office window, hands in his pockets. He spoke as if the decision was already made. "How badly do you want this job, Ms. Grant?" Her heart hammered. "More than anything," she whispered. "It would change our lives." He turned. "I believe you." She froze. Damian stepped closer. "Ms. Grant," he said clearly, "you're hired." Amelia's breath shattered in her chest. I'm what?" "Hired," he repeated calmly. "Senior project coordinator, full benefits, competitive salary. Onboarding starts Monday." Amelia didn't move, couldn't move. She blinked rapidly, tears rising uncontrollably. "Mr. Cole, Thank you, You don't understand. Oh, I do, he said quietly. More than you think. She covered her mouth with her hands as tears streamed down her cheeks. Lila looked up from her blocks. Mama, are we okay? Amelia laughed through tears. Yes, baby, she whispered. We're finally okay. Damian smiled softly at the scene, but the warmth faded when he added, however, the rest of the executive team won't be happy. Amelia swallowed hard. He continued, they've already judged you. They already decided you weren't worth their time. They won't like that I overruled them. A pause, then Damian's voice deepened. So now, Ms. Grant, we fight together. Damian escorted Amelia and Lila back down to the executive floor. When the doors opened, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Executives turned, eyes widened. They weren't expecting them, and they certainly weren't expecting. Ms. Grant will be joining us as the new senior project coordinator, Damian announced, effective immediately. The room went still. Utterly stunned. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Marissa's eyes flashed. One of the male executives nearly choked. Sir, Marissa began, voice tight, with all due respect. Damian lifted a hand, a small gesture, enough to silence her. I reviewed her record myself. She is the most qualified candidate we've interviewed. Marissa's voice sharpened. But sir, bringing her child was a circumstance, Damian cut in, not a reflection of her ability. Evelyn leaned forward, her voice icy. This sets a precedent, Mr. Cole. Yes, Damian said calmly, a precedent of judging candidates based on ability, not circumstances outside their control. Someone in the back muttered, this is nepotism. Damian's eyes flashed dangerously. Nepotism, he repeated slowly, implies a family tie. Miss Grant is here because of merit. His gaze hardened. And because none of you bothered to see past your own biases. Silence slammed into the room. Evelyn crossed her arms tightly. Marissa looked away, jaw clenched. But no one dared challenge him again. No one. As the executives reluctantly dispersed, Damian turned to Amelia. Come by my office this afternoon for your onboarding documents. My assistant will schedule everything. She nodded, still overwhelmed. Thank you. Truly. Don't thank me yet, he said quietly. Your journey here is just beginning. He knelt again beside Lila. Take care of your mama, okay? Lila nodded seriously. She takes care of me, she whispered. Damian smiled. Then you take care of each other. He straightened and stepped away. But just before he left, he looked directly at Amelia. You belong here. And then he walked off, leaving Amelia standing in the hallway holding her daughter's hand, trying to catch her breath, trying to believe this was real, trying to understand how a day that had started with collapse had turned into hope. As the executives dispersed, Amelia found herself standing alone with her daughter in a hallway that suddenly felt too bright, too quiet, too unreal. Her mind tried to catch up. She had walked into that building terrified and was leaving that boardroom employed. She tried to steady her breathing. It wasn't just a job. It was stability, a future, a chance. She lifted Lila into her arms, holding her tight. The smell of her daughter's hair, strawberry shampoo, and childhood innocence grounded her. Mama, Lila whispered, are we going home? Home. The word hurt and soothed all at once. Their motel room wasn't home, but maybe, soon, maybe they could have one again. Not yet, Amelia said softly. Mama needs to sign some papers first. Lila nodded and rested her head on her mother's shoulder. For the first time in months, Amelia allowed herself a small, trembling smile. Hope. Real hope. As Amelia turned to leave the executive wing, she heard a voice behind her. Ms. Grant? She froze. It was Evelyn Hart, Director of Operations, the woman who had judged her the harshest. Evelyn's heels clicked sharply as she approached. Her expression wasn't angry. It was something worse. Polished, controlled, calculating. Congratulations on your new role, Evelyn said, voice cool. Thank you, Amelia replied cautiously. But I want to be clear, Evelyn continued. You may have Mr. Cole's support, but this department runs on efficiency and discipline. We don't allow chaos. Amelia stiffened. I understand. Do you? Evelyn asked, arching a brow. You're walking into a team that already questions you, a team that doesn't want unnecessary liabilities. Liabilities, a subtle jab at Lila. Amelia held her daughter tighter. I won't be a problem, she said quietly. Nor will my daughter. We'll see, Evelyn replied. Then she leaned in slightly, her perfume sharp, her voice dropping to something almost sinister. People here forget kindness faster than they forget mistakes. Be careful. And with that, she walked away, leaving a chill behind her. After Evelyn left, Amelia took a moment to compose herself. She made her way downstairs, stopping at the restroom to let Lila wash her hands and splash her cheeks with water. Then she headed to the main lobby where she was told to wait for Mr. Cole's assistant. The receptionist glanced up at her, still judgmental, still stiff, but said nothing. A few minutes later, a tall woman with red hair and glasses approached her. Ms. Grant, she asked. I'm Nina, Mr. Cole's executive assistant. He asked me to escort you to HR. Thank you, Amelia said. Nina smiled politely at Lila. And this must be the well-behaved little girl everyone's already talking about. Lila shyly hid her face in Amelia's shoulder. Nina chuckled. Come. Mr. Cole gave strict orders that you move through onboarding immediately. Strict orders. The phrase hit differently. It wasn't just kindness, it was authority, force, weight. Damian hadn't just hired her. He'd overridden an entire panel with one sentence. Nina continued walking, her steps brisk but not rushed. You know, she said lightly, I've worked with Mr. Cole for 8 years. He doesn't step into interviews. Ever. Amelia swallowed. Ever. Ever, Nina repeated. He's known for running the company, not hiring staff. But he saw you walk out of that room, and he changed direction. Amelia blinked. He saw me? Nina nodded. He happened to pass by the glass wall right as you stood to leave, and he stopped, watched you for a moment, then walked in. Amelia felt her heart lurch. The moment that changed her life had taken less than 10 seconds. Nina lowered her voice. It's rare, she whispered. But when Damian Cole gets involved in something personally, that something always matters. Nina guided Amelia into the HR department, a less intimidating space with cubicles, plants, and warm lighting. A man with a friendly smile approached. Ms. Grant, I'm Jonah from HR. I'll get your onboarding started. He offered a seat at a small desk. Lila climbed into Amelia's lap. Jonah looked at her with a gentle smile. Well, hello. I hear you behaved better than half the executives today. Lila giggled shyly. Amelia's heart warmed. Jonah walked her through everything. Salary, benefits, direct deposit ID badge, building access training schedule. Everything felt surreal. She'd been rejected so many times that she'd forgotten what acceptance felt like. And then Jonah slid a folder toward her. Here's your official offer letter, he said. Please review and sign. Her hands shook as she opened it. The salary was more than she expected. Far more. Enough to get an apartment, enough to breathe. She looked at Jonah. Is this correct? Yes, he smiled. Mr. Cole personally approved it. Person, ally, game changer. Amelia signed with trembling fingers. When she finished, Jonah stood. Welcome to Cole and Wynn, Ms. Grant. Amelia wiped a tear. Thank you, she whispered. Nina returned, smiling warmly. Mr. Cole asked me to escort you to his office once more before you leave. Amelia blinked. He wants to see me again? Yes, he said it's important. Amelia nodded and gathered Lila. She was nervous, but not afraid. Not anymore. The elevator rose again, smooth and silent. On the 25th floor, Nina gestured toward the CEO's office. He's inside. You can go right in. Amelia took a breath, knocked softly. Come in, Damian's voice called. She entered onto and immediately sensed something different. Damian was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city below. He didn't turn right away. When he finally did, his expression wasn't the polished CEO mask she'd seen earlier. It was human, soft, almost haunted. Ms. Grant, he said quietly, please sit. She sat. Lila settled on the couch, arranging blocks again. Damian remained standing. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, "You're wondering why I hired you." Amelia swallowed. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "I don't intervene in interviews, ever. It's not my job. I built this company on delegation, on trusting my teams." Then his voice deepened. "But today, I saw something I recognized." Her breath caught. He continued slowly, as if choosing each word carefully. "My mother was a single parent." Amelia's chest tightened. "She worked 2 jobs," Damian said quietly. "Barely slept, barely ate. She used to bring me to her shifts because she didn't have a choice. She was judged constantly, treated like she was irresponsible, weak, a burden." His jaw tightened. "But she wasn't weak. She was the strongest person I ever knew." The room felt warm suddenly, alive, real. Damian drew a breath. "And when I saw you in that conference room, being spoken to the same way my mother was spoken to," he paused. "I couldn't walk away." Amelia's eyes watered. She covered her mouth with her hand. He wasn't pitying her. He wasn't rescuing her. He understood her, more than anyone had in years. He spoke again. "Your situation doesn't make you less capable, Ms. Grant. It makes you more." Amelia whispered, "Thank you for seeing that." Damian nodded. Then his expression shifted, hardened slightly. "One more thing." She sat straighter. "The executives you met this morning," he said, "won't all support my decision." She swallowed. "I know." He stepped closer. "But I don't want you to be afraid of them." His voice lowered, steady as steel. "You're under my protection now." Her breath caught. He wasn't being dramatic. He wasn't flirting. He was stating a fact, a promise, a shield. "Thank you," she whispered again, voice trembling. Damian nodded. Then he stepped back, the CEO mask slipping back into place. "You start Monday? Nina will send your schedule tonight. If you need anything, anything at all, you come to me or Nina directly." Amelia stood, holding Lila's hand. "I will." He gave a faint smile. "Good. And Ms. Grant?" She turned. "You belong here." The words settled in her chest like sunlight after a long winter. She nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Cole." And then she left, holding her daughter close, not knowing that the real storm was still coming. Monday morning arrived faster than Amelia expected. After months of fear and instability, she woke up with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. She had borrowed a skirt and blouse from the motel's donation closet. She'd braided Lila's hair. She'd left her with a neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, who happily agreed to help now that Amelia had a job and could afford to pay her soon. When Amelia walked into Cole and Wynn, a few people stared, surprised, some confused, some even annoyed. Whispers followed her. "That's the woman the CEO hired. She brought her kid to the interview. How did she get past the panel? What did she do to get Mr. Cole's attention?" But Amelia ignored them. She walked with her head high. She earned her place. Damian hired her because she was qualified, not because she begged, not because she cried, because she fought, and he saw it. Still, she felt eyes on her back all the way to her new desk on the 14th floor. Her manager, a kind but overwhelmed man named Brian, greeted her warmly. "Welcome, Amelia. We're lucky to have you." For the first time since arriving at the company, someone was glad she was there, but she wasn't safe yet, not even close. The first 2 days went smoothly, too smoothly. By Wednesday, she'd learned the systems, organized project files, created schedules the team loved. But late Wednesday afternoon, everything changed. Brian approached her desk, his face pale. "Amelia, did you delete the Q3 financial planning folder?" Her heart stopped. "What? No, I barely have access to anything yet." Brian swallowed. "The system logs show it was done from your account at 2:13 p.m. Her blood ran cold. "I wasn't even at my desk at that time," she said. "I was in the training seminar." Brian sighed helplessly. "I believe you, but the directors want answers." Her chest tightened. "This is a mistake," she said firmly. "Someone must have used my login." Brian nodded. "I'm afraid that's exactly what it looks like." Her breath caught. Exactly what it looked like. A setup, a trap, a reason to fire her. Someone didn't want her there, and now they had a weapon. She was summoned to a small conference room. Inside sat Evelyn Hart, Marissa Doyle, two other executives and a company security officer. The air was thick with accusation. Evelyn's voice cut the silence. Ms. Grant, we have reason to believe you deliberately deleted confidential financial documents. Amelia's heart pounded. That's not true. We checked logs, Marissa said sharply. It was done under your credentials. Someone used my login, Amelia insisted. My password isn't hard to guess. I didn't know to change it yet. Evelyn smirked. That sounds like an excuse. It's the truth, Marissa leaned back, folding her arms. Ms. Grant, we gave you a chance, but clearly, the door opened and everything stopped. Damian Cole entered the room. His expression was unreadable. Marissa straightened instantly. Mr. Cole, we didn't expect... Clearly, Damian said dryly. He turned to Amelia. Ms. Grant, please step outside for a moment. Amelia nodded and stepped out. Her hands shook. Her chest hurt. But she trusted him. For the first time in her life, she trusted someone in power. And that trust was about to matter more than she knew. The moment the door shut, Damian's voice turned sharp. Very sharp. Who authorized this meeting? Silence. No one answered. Who? He repeated, colder now. Evelyn swallowed. I did. Damian's gaze turned to ice. And you thought it appropriate to accuse a new hire of misconduct before conducting a full investigation? We had evidence, Marissa said weakly. No, Damian said. You had assumptions. He stepped forward. This company has a digital trail for every action, every keystroke, every login, every access attempt. He looked directly at the security officer. Run a complete security audit, now. The officer nodded immediately and left. Damian turned back to the table. And for the record, he said softly, dangerously, if Ms. Grant was targeted, and it looks like she was, I will find out who did it. Evelyn stiffened. That's a serious accusation. So is trying to fire a woman you judged the moment she walked in. Her eyes narrowed. This isn't about bias. Yes, Damian said calmly, it is. Straightening his tie, he gave one final command. Until the investigation is complete, you will not speak to Ms. Grant, you will not question her, and you will not attempt to terminate her employment. His voice dropped to a whisper. And if I find out this was orchestrated by anyone in this room, your career here is over. The room went dead silent. Damian left without another word. 2 hours later, security called him. Damian listened. His jaw clenched. His voice dropped. Then he said one word. Understood. He hung up and immediately called Amelia into his office. When she entered, he looked tired and furious. Sit, Amelia. She did. He paced once, then turned toward her. They ran the audit. Her breath caught. And? It proves you didn't do anything. Relief hit her like a wave. But that's not all, Damian continued, his voice tightened. A login was used from Evelyn Hart's device. Amelia froze. What? She accessed your workstation remotely, he said, entered your credentials, deleted the folder. Amelia shook her head. Why would she? Because she wanted you out, he said. Because she felt threatened. Because she didn't like that I overruled her judgment. Her heart raced. What happens now? Damian exhaled. I'll handle the fallout. But Amelia, he looked at her intensely. This is not your fault. You did nothing wrong. Her eyes burned. I'm so tired of fighting. He softened. I know. He hesitated, then added quietly, but you're not fighting alone anymore. Something warm, almost painful, spread in her chest. She nodded slowly. Thank you, she whispered, for believing me, for protecting me. He shook his head gently. I didn't protect you. You protected yourself. You told the truth. You stood your ground. I just made sure you were heard. Amelia wiped her eyes. What happens to Evelyn? She'll be terminated, Damian said simply. Immediately, Amelia swallowed. And Marissa, he sighed, she'll be disciplined and demoted. She allowed bias to cloud her judgment. Amelia exhaled. The weight crushing her chest finally lifted. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe, seen, believed. By Friday, the news had spread across the entire building. The mother who brought her child to the interview had uncovered corruption, had stood her ground, had the CEO's respect. People who glared at her on her first day now nodded respectfully. Some even apologized. Nina hugged her. "You survived the wolves," she said. "Now the real work begins." Amelia laughed, genuinely. Because for the first time in months, her laughter didn't feel borrowed. She had a job, a future, a chance to rebuild, a CEO who didn't just hire her, but fought for her, a daughter who would finally have stability again. She walked out of the building into the golden evening sunlight and picked up Lila from Mrs. Alvarez. Lila jumped into her arms. "Mama, how was work?" Amelia kissed her cheeks, smiling. "It was," she whispered, tears gathering in her eyes, "the beginning of something good." Layla hugged her tightly. "I'm proud of you, Mama." Those words broke her, in the best way. As she carried Lila home, she looked up toward the 25th floor, toward the glass window of Damian Cole's office. He stood there, watching, not in a possessive way, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, protective, steady way, like someone who kept his promises. He lifted a hand in a small, almost invisible wave. Amelia smiled and nodded. A silent thank you, a silent promise to rise, a silent acknowledgement that the fight was over, and a new life had begun. 1 year. 1 year since the day her babysitter canceled. 1 year since she stood in a boardroom being judged. 1 year since a CEO walked into a room and changed her fate. Amelia now had a 2-bedroom apartment, a savings account, a promotion, a team that respected her, a daughter thriving in kindergarten, a life she built with her own hands. And on the anniversary of her hiring, she received a message from Damian. "Proud of you. Keep going." She smiled. Because she had gone from rejected to valued, from homeless to stable, from judged to respected, from fighting alone to having an ally. And in the end, the world didn't save her. She saved herself. She just needed one person to open the door. The rest, she walked through on her own.